Today we're going to be saving our tomato seeds to grow next year. So many of you have asked for this over the past few months and I'm excited to finally bring it to you. I'm going to go through step by step through the entire process, so don't go anywhere. So why even save seeds? Well, to save money, first of all. If I buy a seed pack, I know that I'll be able to save that seed and never have to buy that variety again. It's not going to stop me from buying other varieties though, that's for sure. I get that seed catalog in my hand and literally have to really show some self-control. A lot of people, I've never done it myself, participate in seed swaps and have a lot of fun with that, so that might be another reason to do it. Sustainability is a big one. Just about every seed company sold out this year because of the pandemic and everything. So who knows what's going to happen next year. So it would be nice to at least have the seeds I grew this year to fall back on in case there's a shortage this coming year. Let me know in the comments if you guys had to deal with seed shortages this year, if you didn't get some things that you wanted to, or if you've been saving seeds for this reason or any other reason. So one thing you have to know about when you're talking about seed saving is cross-pollination. And that can occur when either the wind blows some pollen from one tomato variety to another one's flower on another plant, or insects, pollinators, bees, anything lands on one tomato in that flower and takes that pollen to another tomato. That's when cross-pollination can occur. And what that means is the seeds from this year's tomato may not grow this year's tomato. Might be very similar, but it will have traits of both varieties in one tomato. Now, that could be fun. You could develop your own even better tasting variety. But for a lot of us, if we really like one variety, then we want to make sure that the seeds we're saving this year grow the exact same one next year. So there's a couple ways to do that. Only grow one variety, and that's it, so there's no chance of cross-pollination. Or if you grow more than one variety, grow those two varieties 100 yards apart at least. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think I even have the space to do 100-yard spacing between two different varieties of tomatoes, and I definitely want to grow more than one variety. So that's where these little babies come in. These are blossom bags. Actually, they're wedding favor bags, but they're also blossom bags. I'm going to put a link to these down below where you can get them from Amazon. They're really inexpensive. Now, the way blossom bags work is before tomato flowers open, you slip the bag over the blossoms and draw the string so they're secure in there. And what that's going to do is that is going to allow wind to still blow through this and help pollinate it. It's not going to stop you from shaking the cage or the string or whatever you're growing them on to help the bees. But it is not going to let the pollinators get near the flowers when they open. And so that is going to protect this variety so that there's no cross-pollination. Therefore, the tomatoes that grow from these flowers are going to produce seeds that produce the same variety that you grew this year next year. Once you've seen the flowers bloom inside here and you've shaken it to give it some help, and then you see the flowers start to dry up and hopefully see a little baby tomato in there, then you can take off the bag. Obviously, this cannot grow inside this bag, let alone 3 or 4 or however many blooms got pollinated. But you still want to remember what branch that was. So take a piece of yarn or something and just make a little loose tie, maybe a bow around that branch. So you know when you harvest that tomato, those are the ones that you want to save the seeds from. So now that the tomato is harvested, it's time to get the seeds out. And unfortunately, it's not as simple as just scooping out the seeds, drying them out, and planting them next season. A lot of fruits and vegetables you can do that with. Tomatoes are one that you cannot. So I'm going to show you a real easy way to make sure that these seeds that you take out of here are viable for next year. So the first thing we have to do obviously, is cut it open. We have two choices when cutting it open. Usually you can slice it across the equator, slice it this way, or from top to bottom. Now for getting the seeds out, the easiest way I have found is from top to bottom, because the seed compartments, if you will, grow like this inside the tomatoes. So if you slice this way, you're going to cut across those compartments and have an easier job getting them out. So first I'm just going to cut it in half. First I'm going to core it just to get this core out of here. Okay, so I'm going to cut it in half from top to bottom. And then I'm going to cut it in wedges. And you can see the seed compartments right in there. And you put your finger in and you're going to get seeds out. So the next thing we need is some kind of container. I'm using a glass jar. It doesn't have to be a glass jar. It can be a cup. You're also going to need a coffee filter or paper towel and a rubber band. And so all we're going to do is kind of take a spoon or your finger and scoop the seeds into the jar. I just like to use my finger. And it's okay if you get pulp in there or skin in there. It's not going to matter. And I'll show you why in just a minute. In fact, it's pretty impossible to get the seeds in there without getting some of that. Each seed is encased in a little sack of gel, a little sack of goo. Now this goo serves two purposes. The gel contains chemicals that inhibit germination until the seeds have a chance to find themselves a nice place to sprout. It also protects the seed from the digestive tract of animals, like rats. Because the tomato plant wants an animal to eat its seeds, because that's what helps to spread the seeds further than the vicinity of the plant. If there was no animal to eat it, it would fall to the ground and they would sprout right there. They want to get their seeds, their DNA, far and wide. And so each of these seeds, because it's covered in gel, it protects it from the digestive juices of the animal that eats it. So a few days from now, when it poops it out, it's somewhere else. And the seed has not been destroyed. In fact, it's been fermented in the gut of the animal, and now it's ready to find a place to grow. Now that's a great plan in nature. However, when we're here trying to save these seeds, these little jelly sacks are going to become a problem. Because if we just dried these seeds out, that gel sac would actually keep moisture in and have a place for bacteria and fungus to grow and actually just kill the seed. So we need to ferment this exactly the way it would be fermented inside of an animal. We're not going to use digestive juices, but we're going to fill this jar about 3/4 of the way with water. All right, so the seeds are now in the water, and we're just going to cover this up a little bit. It needs to breathe, but we also just want to cover it up. So take the coffee filter or paper towel, just put the rubber band around it. And we're going to let this sit in a cool, dark place for 2 to 3 days. Now, during the next 2 to 3 days, the fermentation process is going to take the gel sacs away. They're going to dissolve in the water, and the viable seeds are going to float to the bottom, and everything else will float to the top. So it'll be easy to separate the two when this is all finished. Now you don't want to leave it for more than 2 to 3 days, or it's going to start breaking down the seed itself, and then the seeds won't be viable. So after 2 to 3 days, pour off the top, and we're going to take the seeds that are left and we're going to spread them on a paper plate, a paper towel, and make sure you keep these labeled throughout the process. So you've gone to all this trouble to get the variety you want. You want to know what variety that is. So once they're spread out on a paper plate or paper towel, you're going to leave them for another 2 to 3 days to get completely dried out. You don't want any moisture left because that will cause bacteria to grow. And at that point, you could put them into, once they're completely dry, you can put them into a paper envelope, labeled of course, seal it up, and it'll be ready. Put the date on it as well so you know, because these will last for more than 1 year. They will last for a good 2 to 3 years without any degradation in viability. After that, every year that goes by, you're going to get just a less and less germination rate from your seeds, but they will last for several years. So make sure you put the date and the name on there. Now you can also store them in a plastic bag. You want to make sure though that if they're stored in a plastic bag that they were definitely 100% dried out before they were put in there, because you don't want bacteria to grow and kill your seeds. I use a paper envelope, that way I don't have to worry if there's a little moisture left. It will be absorbed by the envelope. So that's as difficult as it gets. I hope you guys learned something. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit the thumbs up button and I will see you guys on Friday. Have a great rest of your week.